Hello everyone, it's Richard from Adaptation here, and today I'm going to talk about adaptation. So hopefully you'll see a moving spiral on the screen in front of you, and if you just keep looking in the middle of that, then we'll be able to give you a nice example of how your brain adapts to stimuli. So here there's moving white and black curved bars that are going round and round, and I'm really just talking to make sure you're fixating for long enough so you keep looking and looking, and all the cells in your eye and your brain are gradually becoming fatigued. So what's going to happen is I'm going to press a button and a static image is going to appear, and you'll actually see it as moving, but moving backwards in the opposite direction to the spiral you're staring at. So are you ready? Here comes the static image, and you should see it gradually, strangely moving backwards in an illusory way, and then it'll disappear. So the longer that you stare at that moving spiral, the longer the effect occurs, and it happens for very short periods or long periods. So that's called a movement after effect. Let me show you a different sort of adaptation. So here we've got some bright colours, red text on a green background, and if you stare at the black dot, then in a similar way to the movement after effect, we can get a colour after effect. So the cells in your eye and brain that respond to red and green are going to be picking up the letters on the background, and you've got to look really carefully, don't move your eyes around at all. Try and fixate and stare as hard as you can. Obviously it'll depend the size of your screen, the extent to which this works. But after you stare for a little while, you should actually start to see a little shimmery board around the letters, which is just showing that your eyes are moving even a slight amount. So what I'm going to do is advance the slide to be pure white, and you should be able to see for a small period of time an after effect, a colour after effect on the white. So there we go. You should see a sort of cyany blue text on the white background that gradually disappears. So the fact it disappears shows that I haven't done any lasting damage to you. One of the common ways you get this, of course, is if you look at the sun by mistake, and then you can damage your eyes and you get bright after effects. So these after effects really tell us that our brain has adapted to the stimuli, and the brain adapts to all sorts of stimuli, not just visual ones, sights and smells. So you'll have noticed in our hobby some of the people engaged in it can be somewhat pungent. Well, that's not necessarily their fault, because they've adapted to their smells. They need a bit of feedback. Sometimes they need a nudge. They need someone to tell them that because they're not able to detect it themselves. Sounds as well you can adapt to. So a common one is car alarms that are very annoying. They're obviously set there to tell you someone's trying to break in, but normally it happens by mistake, and they're left to go on and on and on, and after a while you stop hearing them, until actually eventually the owner turns up, turns it off, and then you can still hear it going on, and that's the adaptation that's occurred. That's the sound after effect. And touch as well. So if you touch the table in front of you, when you first touch it, you get a very strong signal about what the surface is like, but after a period of time, that sensation goes away. So this is very useful for us in detecting new signals, but what it means is that over time it gets hard for us to see things properly, see things fresh. So if you think about adaptation in painting, well, if you only ever see your own models, then you adapt to them, you kind of get used to them. So this can be bad in two ways. One, if you're quite a good painter, I don't think you necessarily realise that you're that good. You get used to your level of painting, and you don't realise that out there in the world there are lots of unpainted grey models, as Vince Venturella would put it, and the standard of your paintings can be quite high. I would say my standard's not great, but again, that is the same sort of issue, that unless you see other people's work of a really high standard, you don't have anything to judge against it, and really you've adapted to your standard as you can't really see your models and evaluate them properly anymore. So seeing a variety of painting styles and getting feedback is essential, and I'm going to talk a bit about feedback in my next Psychology of Gaming. So how can we avoid adaptation in painting? So this topic came up in the Warhammer topic of the week about what do you do with your old models, and do you sell them or do you ever go back? Well, it occurred to me that actually this is a nice way to avoid adaptation. So you can look at your old models and see the change, so you can really detect the difference between what you're painting now and what you've painted in the past. And hopefully it's a good change, but of course if you haven't painted for a while, your standard may have been quite high, and trying to get back to that standard may take a bit of work, especially if you've been out of the hobby for a while. Another way to avoid painting adaptation is go to your club, see other people's models, see what they've been doing, and see models afresh, see what you could do that's different. And for me, the Painters Motivating Painters League, the PMP, is really useful for avoiding adaptation. So in terms of adaptation in gaming then, humans respond to novelty. We love new things, and you see this in people always developing new lists and new armies, new games. So I've recently taken up Hordes. The other night I was playing Frostgrave, and it's exciting. You play new things. You avoid that adaptation of playing the same old thing, but there are dangers in this. You know, the number of people you see buying new models and really not doing very much with them, not necessarily even putting them together, having those boxes on your shelves where you want the novelty, but you haven't put the time to complete them. Buying new games, not playing them fully. So there are dangers. How can we avoid it? Well, find ways to alter models in small ways. So conversions, making slightly different models, rebasing your armies. I was quite surprised at how putting the round bases on your armies can really freshen it up and stop that adaptation. And in your games, try adopting scenarios. So I've been intrigued by these AOS battle plans that have come out as ways of making the game run in a different way. So it's the same core game, but you're just tweaking it slightly. And these small changes should be sufficient to prevent adaptation. So hopefully the ideas behind here have been useful for you. Of course, adaptation occurs in all sorts of ways and aspects of your life, but particularly in the psychology of gaming, thinking about adaptation can help keep things fresh. So thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you next time.